Guys and dolls, so I'm going to bring you a couple of wee videos here, and it's about our politicians in Northern Ireland and just the rhetoric, the words that's being used. And you've got to remember, the first one, Jonathan Buckley, he's DUP, and the two men I'm going to bring you are going to be like both DUP, and I'll be jumping in between, obviously, introducing. So the first one's Jonathan Buckley, and you know, I'll talk about it afterwards. But let's hear the rhetoric and the words that our politicians in Northern Ireland are starting to say for the first time. Obviously, with the shaking of the heads from the other side, but let's go for it.
Today is an important day in the Northern Ireland Assembly. Today I bring a motion calling out the uncontrolled and illegal immigration levels in the United Kingdom. For far too long, politicians have wanted to stay silent on this issue. No more. Our communities are facing the pressures, whether that be in GP services, emergency departments and housing. Contact your local MLA, get them involved in the debate. You can follow on live watching as the debate continues, and as usual my post will be put up after the debate. Thanks everybody that's been in touch. Let's do this. Thank you, Speaker. Finally, the penny has dropped. The issue of uncontrolled and illegal immigration has been a priority for the people of Northern Ireland and right across the United Kingdom for years, but fell on deaf ears. Deaf ears in this party from parties like the Alliance, Sinn Féin and the SDLP. Silence from a UK government, whether it be Conservative or Labour. Their inaction has caused catastrophic damage to the social fabric of the very communities that we represent. How much longer were we expected to stand by in silence? How much longer would our communities be ignored, their concerns dismissed, and our borders treated like optional guidelines rather than sovereign lines? Keir Starmer just yesterday talked about we risk becoming an island of strangers. My goodness, what a hefty defeat in an election could actually bring forward in terms of the Prime Minister finally waking up and smelling the coffee. In many communities it is already like that. Go to some of our working class communities throughout Northern Ireland, unionist or nationalist towns, or indeed those that don't prescribe to either. Their communities have been destroyed by the havoc of illegal immigration and indeed quotas that have fast outpaced the services that they represent. I see the shaking of the head from Sinn Féin, and be under no illusion, you're completely out of step with many in the nationalist community who are facing severe pressures, public pressures in terms of their public services, can't get access to their GPs, can't get access to EDs, put to the back of a queue while interpreters come to our hospitals. That is a result of your reckless policies towards border security. Whether we look at school places, how many of our constituents have been denied access in local schools? Why? Because they're put at the back of the queue. Members, this is a grave issue and something that has to be addressed. The National Audit Office yesterday, 400 million has been spent to house illegal and asylum seekers in Northern Ireland, 4 times the original indication. That is ridiculous. But yet you're happy to splash out on these policies and then come to this House calling for more money for public services when you're literally supporting policies that are bleeding public services dry. It's time you woke up. I welcome the fact that the Prime Minister seems to essentially be accepting their failure in office and indeed that of Conservatives, and we will hold them to account to ensure that they do just that.
So, who does that remind you of? It reminds me of Tommy Robinson 15 years ago. That's what reminds me. When I was listening to him there, I was like, obviously I'm going like, better late than never, I suppose, and all sorts of Protestants and Catholics coming together, old freedom dad there's fucking jumping about like a madman, threatening to interview people in the streets, and and other guys, not just me, and Lindsay, and Orla, and Richard, you know, and if why should we not think like that? Because we've been banging on about this for I don't know how long. Tommy Robinson was silenced so he couldn't warn people. But here we have the UP stepping up to the mark. So, what do I think about it? Well, I'm going to be totally frank and honest with you. What I think about it, just exactly the same thing as I thought what Stormer said. The same thing that Farad's is saying. You know, these politicians will say whatever they need to say to win us over. Actions speak louder than words. You know what I mean? It's all firm well standing up and saying all the things that we've been saying for the last 15 years, but it's a wee bit different actually putting your words into action and getting out onto the street and reassuring the communities and going out to these places where there's victims or where there's attacks. That's what it's about. Get to know the community, get right in amongst the community, every community, not just your own constituency. Manage that word just about there. So yeah, that's the way I look at it. Once bitten, twice shy. You know what I mean? It wasn't till I seen how Labour lied to the WASPy women, lied to the farmers, lied to the mental health, lied to the social benefit carry on. We won't touch this, we won't touch that. Lied to the winter fuel heating for the old folk. Oh, we won't touch that. We'll pay oh, use WASPy women, you vote for us and we will pay your compensation. Within a month, they were like, I'm sorry, there's no money there to pay for it. You make the money. You make the money. You're spending billions, hundreds of billions for Ukraine, for a dead-end war that we know the outcome of. We knew the outcome of it a year ago. We were all scratching our heads going, what are you doing? Jumping, like telling our unawake citizens that Ukraine were doing so well, while the rest of us that were awake were saying that Ukraine were getting annihilated. They were actually taking our equipment, towing it back into Russia. They've got it on display in the Kremlin. They took drone warfare to another level, but not once in the last 2 years did our British media dare tell the public how bad Ukraine was truly getting it. Because then there would have been big questions of why are we spending billions, going into trillions, no doubt, on Ukraine, after Brexit. You know what I mean? So there's lots of things that we've been lied to, we've been fooled about, and government, I feel, officials have got a certain leeway to say what they want to keep the people happy, to keep the people happy. But when they get in the power, when they get that power, that's when the excuses come out, So, no, we want immediate action. That's what the people want. The people don't want any more children being hurt. We don't want any more of our women being hurt. We want to see it stopped in England, Scotland, and Wales, and we want to see it stopped in the Southern Ireland, because that's the only true way we can protect ourselves in Northern Ireland, is by making sure our borders are safe and secure, and no bad men can just walk straight into our country, do whatever they want, and walk right back out again. No, we couldn't do that as terrorists. How can these fighting age men who have came over here from God knows where, of all sorts of war-torn countries, that have probably, maybe, quite possibly shot rounds at our soldiers, some of our soldiers that you see struggling today because they're not getting the help that they deserve, because there's no money there for them, because all the money's being spent on people coming into the country, hotels, interpreters, and all the rest. Billions. We're talking 1.5 billion a month just on social benefits. I've done that myself. You can do it yourself. You really can do it yourself. You know what I mean? And yeah, it's frightening. The amount of money is frightening. That's just the tip of the iceberg. That's a conservative figure. That's just the wee bits that I know about. That's not talking about the mobile phones and everything else that they get that the government pay, and how much it's costing the Coast Guard, and how much it's costing intelligence service, and how much it's costing God knows what they're doing in France. So yeah, when you add it all up, it's a crazy amount of money that we could be spending on our children, our national health, our mental health, and most importantly, our veterans. So I'm going to leave you this last video. Philip Barrett, another DUP man, the show road, Belfast man. And, like I say, I like this guy, so I do. yeah, has that person people reader and stuff like that. That's as far as I'm going with it. Like, you know what I mean? I'm not going to slate every politician that comes out. I'm not like that. I just feel that there's things that I know that I see and hear, and you know, like everybody speak about. Obviously, I'm getting to know learn my politics over here, and all the new faces and all the old faces, and you know, it's not much different, you know, than Westminster at the minute. But there might be hope for us yet. I'll leave you with this. I'm Freedom Dad, and God bless.
The increase of houses of multiple occupancy and unvetted males is rightly causing concern to families, to children and to our public. Just this week, Mr. Speaker, the courts remanded in custody a 35-year-old male asylum seeker who, in the words of the judge, posed a risk of harm to the general public, which specifically seems to be enhanced in terms of young people. He is charged with indecent exposure to young females in Lower North Belfast. These incidents are becoming all too common, and tomorrow this House will receive a motion from this party. And I see, Mr. Speaker, that members opposite are shaking their heads on this issue. Be in no doubt, Mr. Speaker, the public will be watching people's reactions to this debate tomorrow, because people are deeply concerned about this matter, and they will not be browbeaten into silence on fake charges of racism or being far right. People who are concerned about the safety of their families, of their children, are not racist. They are not far right. And those who believe a government should put the interests of those born here first is not a controversial statement.